What's going on, guys? How's it? Back from Hawaii prematurely a little bit, but I am back. Definitely was a nice trip, grateful for that. I really realized how much I missed the islands and how much I missed connecting with the people on the islands and the ocean and the turtles and all the good stuff that Hawaii has to offer. And it really reminded me that I really need to be back in Hawaii living, hopefully sooner than later. So that's going to be the goal for this year, to really shift and try to get back to island. But with that being said, I have my Autel EVO 2 Pro Enterprise 6K, which I brought to island with me, and I flew. And I want to talk to you guys a little bit about some of the settings. Right now I have the latest firmware. I think it's like 285, and it's been kind of buggy. My histogram hasn't been working, but I just want to show you a little walkthrough of some of the settings that I've been using and trying. And I think that's one of the things that a lot of these drone manufacturers lack, is the ability to kind of adjust your drone for cinematic flying with ease. I don't know why. I mean, the Exp settings with the curve, I don't think that's ideal. Then there's a lot of settings like in the Autel Explorer app, which I'll get into. We have the sensitivity settings, meaning we have attitude, brake, and yaw. The yaw is pretty self-explanatory. You can dial down how fast and slow it will yaw. But the attitude, even when I talked to Autel support, they really didn't even know how to explain it. So to have the actual drone manufacturer basically kind of sound clueless about a cut and dry answer essentially about what one of their settings does is kind of weird. And Autel support, I think a lot of people are realizing, has not been that great lately. Apparently it's due to lack of staffing, but for whatever it's worth, been pretty frustrating for a lot of people. Ken Boots supposedly resigned, and he was really one of the only people that was kind of giving some kind of support, at least through some of the Facebook forums. So that's kind of unfortunate that Ken's leaving. I didn't know him personally. We just talked a bunch through Messenger and stuff. But with that being said, I actually just deleted my Facebook account. I kind of threw a 22,000 follower page down the toilet. I just want to purge, get away from Facebook, get away from social media a little bit, focus much more on YouTube and this channel, and hopefully bring some good content. Just so you guys are aware, I think you know, I put a few videos out there that I've been dealing with my anxiety and some extreme anxiety that's really been pretty debilitating, and that was my main reason to go to Hawaii, was to heal. But with that being said, when I do these videos, for whatever it's worth, my anxiety kind of peaks a little bit just because I'm on camera and you got to perform and you got to set up and you got to do all the work yourself. So my anxiety kind of is a little bit higher. So this is kind of therapy for me in a way, to do my first video in a while that actually is drone related, not just talking about my anxiety or stuff that I've been working through. But with that being said, the EVO 2 Pro 6K Enterprise is one pretty cool little drone. I definitely have had some issues with it. It hasn't been perfect, but I can tell you this, on island, the winds were really strong and it did really well in higher wind situations. Better, I think, than the standard would have performed. The video quality, when you nail it, is just such another level, even over Mavic 3 or anything. And I'm not just saying that. This footage, when you're shooting 6K normal, I know people like Xavier and other people will shoot 4K, 24 frames per second or 30 frames per second in log because they want to shoot in an uncompressed, you know, kind of color. They don't want to have any kind of color applied to it, so they'll shoot log 10-bit. But I honestly feel the 6K normal color profile footage almost holds up to the 10-bit footage. So for whatever it's worth, all I'm going to say is try shooting in normal color space and 6K, and I think you'll thank me later, because the 6K really is where this drone, I think, is optimized and where it's at. So that's my opinion, and that's what I fly and shoot at all the time. It's 6K, 24 frames per second. But right now, I just want to talk to you guys about some of the settings in the app and what I've kind of realized flying these EVO 2 Pros for probably a solid year and a half now. This is the Enterprise, but essentially it's the same exact drone, app, everything, experience as the standard EVO 2 Pro 6K. The only difference is we have carbon fiber arms, which are pretty cool. We have the ability to add modules, accessories on the top, like the megaphone, the strobe and the little spotlight thing. And we also have stronger motors, which I do think actually works handling much better in winds. So today's like optimal no wind day. I think it's like 5 to 7 miles an hour. I'll check my app in a second and do a little screen recording. But I have my little Pelican case. This is what I took to Hawaii. I took my Mini 2 and this. I didn't use the Enterprise case because it is just too big. I know this Pelican 1510 case will go in the overhead compartments. So that's what I did. I took my Enterprise and I took my controller, and I have also, I have the Skyfire Aerial Rig over here, which is really awesome and mandatory when you're flying an EVO 2 Pro 6K. So I kind of broke it down because it wouldn't fit in one piece in the case. But all I have to do, it actually has this little piece which works for the bottom AB buttons so you don't accidentally depress them. And I could put this together very quickly. So all I do is put this little bumper guard, push it up, and basically screw it down. So there's nothing hard or complex about putting this thing together. Literally, whoop. Of course, it never works as well when you're doing it on camera. Let me see. But still pretty quick when you're putting it together. And that's that. So you have this piece, which will allow you to rest it on the surface comfortably. So this piece over here will add rigidity to the entire setup. And they supply you with this little threaded screw, and that's it. And now we're ready to go. So boom, phone. And one of the things that I've been having issues with a little bit, not only the histogram not showing in the new firmware update, but I've had some disconnects, and I'm not sure what that's about. But let's go ahead and get this thing powered up. I don't know if I have, this battery is POW, meaning dead. We're gonna go ahead and grab one more, freshie, put this guy in. Really amazing battery life. You're gonna power it on by just pressing once, not like DJI, short press, long press. Same thing with the remote, just one press will power this guy on. I put these antennas up just because when I'm resting, but when you're actually flying, you want these guys to be angled and positioned down for optimal range if you're just flying in normal kind of conditions. So boom, but for now, we're gonna put that over here. And one thing you can do is, here, hold on, let me go ahead and get this guy set up. These videos, or this video, is my first initial video in a while. So this is kind of therapy, so bear with me, guys. This is YouTube video therapy. I have the cable. We're gonna go ahead and plug this guy in. And I just wanna walk through some of the kind of crucial settings to me when you're flying an EVO 2 Pro or an Autel series drone. It's not gonna probably be the exact same with the Lite and Nano series, but it will be pretty darn comparable. And this is, again, what I've experienced so far for flying these guys. So here I'm gonna go ahead and start a screen recording. It's saying I have magnetic interference, probably because I'm sitting over here by this electrical box. So I'm gonna record the screen. Boom. Okay. I'm gonna go into the Autel Explorer app and I'm gonna connect. And I don't know why it's recording, but it was. So what I'm gonna do, first off, is get this guy probably away from metal. Maybe I don't need to, maybe I can get away with it, but I shouldn't be by this big electrical box because it's causing some kind of compass issue. But with that being said, I'm gonna go ahead before I take off and I'm gonna go and calibrate the gimbal. So I'm gonna do this gimbal auto calibrate and I'm gonna hit start. And what this is gonna do is calibrate this gimbal and give me the best possible chance of having a level horizon and not having any kind of tilt issues. So if you're traveling or you just wanna make certain you get the best type of footage you can, do this gimbal calibration always before the first flight. And I think you'll be at least a little bit ahead of the game. If you do have some kind of issue, you know that's not it. So again, Hawaii was really nice. One thing I really noticed while on island is how people are just more friendly in Hawaii than on the mainland. It's just colder here in a lot of regards. People aren't as open, and I think that's one of the things that I really noticed when I was in Hawaii. One of my goals, even with my therapist, was kind of to connect with people. So I made a big effort to be open and to talk with a lot of people and meet a lot of people, and I met a lot of really beautiful new friends. It was just a really beautiful, fun trip, connecting with people, tourists, locals, all kinds of people. I had Garrett McNamara chilling with me. I mean, we had all kinds of cool stuff happen, and I was just unplugged. And I think that's why I deleted my Facebook, just because I feel when you're less plugged into all this tech, more things unfold for you and actually you do better. So anyway, that's my story. So let's go ahead, and I have my gimbal pitch sensitivity to 72. So let's remember that for now, okay? We're gonna go to flight navigation, and we're gonna get this thing in the air, if I can. Let's try to start the props. Make sure we're still recording. We are. And I'm just gonna get this guy up and away from me. Okay. So right now, the first thing I'm gonna do is put my glasses on my head so I can kind of see. And I'm gonna go ahead and to see where this map is, in the upper left-hand corner, I'm gonna click that little area, that little grayed area, and I'm gonna minimize that. And then I'm gonna go to the lower bottom right, and I'm gonna click that little arrow, and that's gonna bring up all of these settings. Right now, I'm just gonna go into auto exposure mode because I don't wanna mess around with anything, and I wanna see where I'm going. So let's go ahead and zoom over here, and we'll look at the Peace on Earth bridge to give a little peaceful vibe to this video. Boom, 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 boom. And you see how it's yawing right now, so we're gonna get into that in a second. And it's really not exposing great right here. So let's go ahead, go in the manual, auto, and see auto exposure sometimes doesn't work well. But we can talk about that in a second. So auto is not always gonna give us the best option. And if you see that little X right in the middle? That's my histogram. That's not working. So if you see, I'm gonna click on the bottom right, this little camera icon, the histogram's on. And if you watch that X, if I turn it off, it toggles off. So it's not showing any kind of information in the histogram, meaning there's a bug. But if I go ahead and switch to still photo mode, watch what happens. Boom. And there we have the histogram working. So for some reason, it's not working in video mode, which is really annoying, but as a worst case scenario workaround for the moment, we go and get our exposure in the still side of things, and then we just mimic that in the video side. So let's go ahead and kind of cruise. Where can we go? Let's just look at something that's better exposed and not hit a bird or anything. I'm gonna be better exposed over here, but right now, the histogram's kind of working, right? So over here, I switch to video mode, and now it's sticking. So that's the workaround, so you guys are aware with this new 2.8.5, which I believe is the latest version. Hopefully I'm saying that right. It's not 2.8.5, I don't know what it is to be certain. Wait, let me see what it is. General, about, it is, I don't know why it doesn't say it here. But regardless, it's the latest version that I just updated that can actually help me update, and it wasn't easy, and he even said it was a pain in the butt. So it would be nice if Autel offered some better support right now, because there are a lot of people struggling, and that's really unfortunate. They have so much potential, and they're really dropping the ball, in my opinion, unfortunately. So let's go ahead and just go through some of the settings on the bottom. So this is just a quick little side tutorial. I really want to talk more about the sensitivity settings, but we have the resolution. I'm shooting 6K, that's my preference, 24 frames per second. MP4 is the file format. You can shoot whatever you really want. Manual. And if we're shooting 24 frames per second, we're going to want to keep our shutter speed ideally at 60th of a second. Actually, 50th of a second, I'm sorry. If you're shooting 30 frames per second, you would keep it at 1/60th of a second. So keep it at 1/50th of a second, and with this variable aperture, we can go ahead and adjust it, which is great. That's why some of these drones, like even the Mini 3 with a really fast f1.7 lens, you're kind of screwed because if you don't have filters, you're basically going to be shooting at a really high shutter speed all the time, which is not ideal for video, not that big of a deal for still photos, but that's kind of the nice perk of a variable aperture like this, going from 2.8 all the way to f11. f11 letting in the least amount of light. As you see, it will get darker. But we're going to go back over here. And if we did want to shoot, just for example, log, you would need to go over here, click 4K. You would have to shoot in either 24 or 30 frames per second, right? Boom. And then you would have to make sure you're shooting at this video encoding format 265. And you would also need to go over here to color and go log. Now we're shooting 10-bit. I don't like flying when I can't see a better preview. For some reason, my eyes just don't look at a scene the same way when it's super washed out. That's why the Mavic 2 Pro had a little color preview thing that you can kind of toggle, which was nice. I wish this had something similar. But again, I don't really care. I personally think 6K is where it's at with this drone at 24 frames per second. Boom. And we're going to go ahead and expose a little bit better. And that's really all I want to talk about with this kind of basic camera setup. I mean, it's kind of self-explanatory. You got your shutter speed, right? Okay, we got ISO. You want to shoot at the lowest ISO possible. Your white balance, keep your digital zoom at 1. Autofocus, you can keep it at manual if you want, but I always keep mine at autofocus. Color set to none. Style I don't use. And then really that's about it. I don't even know what manual PIV is, which is weird. So that's kind of new to me. I'm not sure what that is. So if you guys know, let me know. And over here, histogram, we want on. Let me toggle it and see if it works again. Nope. See that? It's not working. Remember, if we want it back on, we're going to toggle over here, and then we're going to toggle back. And that will keep the histogram on. And what we're going to talk about mainly is flight control. So if we go down, I'm going to show you what my settings are first off. I'm going to go in the Exp Settings. And right now, I don't know why. Okay, there it is. I have basically the throttle up and down. If you see, I'm pushing up and down on the left stick right now. That's the curve that it's going to follow. So the minute you go full on the left stick, you're going to see it's going to zip up this curve really quickly. So you basically don't want to be full stick to get the most cinematic possibility out of your drone with this setting. Rotate left, that's the yaw left right. And I have that set to 2.0. And then forward, this is the right stick, going forward and backwards. And actually right and left, I'm trying the 0.70 because I feel like it's going on a little slower curve. And for whatever reason, it feels good. So I'm rocking one new setting as of today, literally. So that's what I would suggest doing too. Don't go ahead and get too crazy changing everything at once. Change one setting and sit with it for a week and see. And then revert back, and you'll know right away, I think, if one is going to be a lot better or not than the other. So these are my EXP settings, and that's that. Sensitivity, I have my yaw set to 20. So if you see right now, whoop, I'm going to yaw, so yaw set to 20. This is full stick right, full stick left. Now watch what happens if I go to 100. Come on. So I'm going to go 100, and now watch. So that's 100. That's way too nuts. That thing's just like flying around. So for me, I totally want my yaw to be slow. So I'm going to keep it at 20 for now. Maybe that's a little too slow, but just for shits and giggles, I'm going to keep it at 20, and that's that. Brake, I'm not touching. I honestly don't even know what brake does. I think it will actually just brake slower, and I don't want to mess with that. It should brake the way it's intended to by factory, so I'm keeping that at 100. That's the default. And then attitude, as I said, I truly don't know what attitude does, but for whatever it's worth, I was told that it's going to make it perform a little less aggressively, and I put it at 50. It was set to 100. I've tried 20. I've tried 100. I honestly don't know the difference, but that's what my settings are at. Autel support could not even explain what attitude setting truly does. I would like to think they would know exactly what it does, but they don't, or they didn't. So if anyone knows what attitude does, please let me know in the comments below, because I can't find anything on it. So with that being said, let's go ahead and just try to go somewhere and get some kind of footage. So you see how slow it's yawing right now. And one other thing too, just be really aware of this. This is just a few little tips and tricks with this drone. I'm not going to get into a huge tutorial. If you want to get anywhere quickly, like point A to B, switch to Ludicrous Mode. But just be aware that each mode has two different settings for speed. So standard has an 11 mile an hour and a 22 mile an hour. So if you want to go slower and a little bit more cinematically, maybe try the 11 miles an hour and see what that does for you. And if you want to maybe break through some really powerful winds, you're having a hard time with the weather, click into Ludicrous Mode, and then you have two different settings, 34 miles an hour or 45. So let's put it at 45 right now and just hightail to, say, another zone like this building over here. So we're going to cruise, get from point A to point B. Maybe lower a little bit. And if you're ever wondering where you're at in your space when you're flying, I have my little B button. If I depress it, the gimbal's going to go straight down. But that arrow is where I'm at. So it's deceiving sometimes because you don't know exactly where your drone really is at. But if you put it down, you're going to know that's exactly where it is. Like, for example, if I wanted to go into this fountain and land, that's how I'm going to know. I could land right now in that fountain safely, but I'm not going to. But that's how you know where you're coming down. There's probably people over there. Are there? Maybe. I don't know. I can still see the drone. And you see my gimbal right now. I'm going full up on the wheel, and that's how slow it's going, which is good for getting nice cinematic footage. But look at what it was set at, just so you guys are aware. It's set at 72. That's pretty darn high for it going that slow. So for whatever it was worth, on one of the firmware updates, everything got really slow. And I'm not sure what that is. Like, if I went ahead and put it to like 5 or 8, watch what happens. This is full down. I mean, this is literally full down at that speed. It's going like so slow. So Autel has to address that as well. That's not right. I can go to 27 or 28. Watch this. This is full wheel. That's still realistically too slow for cinematic flying. You don't want to use something that slow, in my opinion, because it's just not going to give you the results you want. You can play around with it, but that's why I had it set to, I don't even know what I had it set to. I can look at my screen recording. But say 70 right now. And that's maybe a little fast. I'm going to go ahead and go a little bit slower. Maybe 61. Okay. And say we want to just go ahead and get some footage, maybe like an orbit or something. Let's see. The light's really poopy everywhere right now, honestly. I'm going to go manual. I'm going to open up the aperture a little bit. Come on. See, this is another thing. For some reason, sometimes it like doesn't take when I'm selecting something. See, can you see that? I'm selecting F28. There we go. Okay. So I'm looking at my height because I want to make sure I'm clear because I can see it, but I just still won't want to hit anything. I'm going to go ahead and adjust my white balance. Maybe I'll hit auto for now just because it doesn't really matter. And let's just test out some of these settings. I'm going to try to orbit this guy and maybe move the gimbal up. So we're going to do 2 movements. 3 movements actually. A little orbit, and then I'm going to push up on the gimbal, and then I'm going to go back a little bit. See, when I go back sometimes, there we go. And maybe do a nice reveal. I mean, obviously, I really don't care about this footage, but just to show you, I'm going backwards, and I'm raising the gimbal, and then I'm kind of let off everything slowly, and continue going back in the direction, and there we go. But it takes some dialing in these drones, especially this EVO 2 Pro. I like the fly up. So for whatever it's worth, people don't like it, I like it. You have all the controls easily available to dial in your drone, which is great. And you have the ability to dial in each mode individually, which is also amazing. And another little tip is go and get long drawn out shots. Don't just stop and get this little 4-second clip. Like, do a minute flight and do all kinds of cool little stuff, like go ahead and lower the drone. Go ahead and lower the gimbal now and maybe raise up in altitude. And just cruise. I know I'm not going to hit anything. I'm 150 feet up. But you see, a lot of people will stop and only do these short little flights. Do something really long and drawn out and amazing and just have fun and fly safe and know your airspace. This is a really nice, mild day today. I'm above all kinds of power lines. See the power lines down there? I know I'm safe. I know this area. Boom. But that's kind of what I wanted to get into. Mainly, be aware that the gimbal settings, for whatever reason, are kind of jacked, and you need to keep it somewhere probably 60 to 70 something to get the gimbal to be where you'd want it. Because if you went ahead and went to 3 thinking that's going to be great, guess what? I'm full on the wheel right now and it's barely even moving. So Autel needs to work on their app really badly. It really kind of sucks. So I'm going to go back to 60, 61. And again, flight mode. Right now I'm in ludicrous mode, which I don't want to do. But that was kind of cool for flying fast, for example. So I can go back into standard. And I also have my A button to switch back and forth. So watch, I'm going to depress my A button. Let me see if it's set up. If I go to remote control customizable buttons, this is one other little bug. For some reason, I had A set to switch my speed mode from normal to ludicrous, from standard. And if you see, you can't find it. But if you actually scroll and put my thumb over here, on the very bottom, there's speed mode. So boom, press and hold for 1 second to trigger. Customization is unavailable when the app is not connected. So boom, watch, I'm gonna depress on the right side of my controller when I'm holding it, the A button, and that's gonna throw me into ludicrous mode. See that? One more time, boom. So those are some quick little tips to get you flying and up and running, and I think in the ballpark of using and getting great footage from your EVO 2 Pro 6K. Shooting 6K, shooting normal color, shoot at 24 frames per second, adjust the gimbal to maybe somewhere, say 60 to 70 to start out, go in the flight control, go in the flight control, go to advanced settings, adjust your EXP settings. If you want, do it all 0.20, all the way even to the right, and then adjust one setting that you maybe want to see what a different setting will do like I did with this left and right, and sit with that for a second. And then the sensitivity, again, I have my attitude set to 50. The yaw, as I said, is pretty easy to know. You can see this is as slow as it goes. So to me, that's a no-brainer, keeping it somewhere lower, but that's entirely up to you and how you fly. So let me go and get some footage of something. Let me go, where am I? Wait, hold on a second. Okay, here I am. I gotta come back to me. There's a lot of little bugs out from the river, which is annoying because these drones act like bug killers and then it's all dirty. 200 feet up. Where are you, little guy? Okay. I see the drone. I'm gonna try to just get some low footage, and that's another little tip and trick that I would suggest to do is fly low. You don't always have to take this drone 400 feet to impress people. Utilize this thing and utilize flying slow and kind of carefully. Like, let's go over here. I can get maybe even a little footage of here. Honestly, I'm bored of being in this area. So, but okay. So see that? I'm gonna stop over here. I'm gonna try auto exposure because a lot of times it does a really good job, but it's not right now because I think the sun is still too bright. So I'm gonna go to manual mode. Come on. I'm gonna adjust the aperture. Come on, let me, the light is just still kind of poopy right now. Try auto with the still side of things. Yeah, the light is just kind of not great, but I'm hoping this helps you guys. The light looks nice down there though. So let's cruise over here for 1 second. Manual. I'm gonna adjust and get a little darker, and there you go. So that's what I would want to do. And also a perk of shooting 6K is I can crop in on the footage a little bit and still have 4K resolution. I have obstacle avoidance on, but you always want to be mindful of things like power lines and organic branches and trees because you don't really want to rely on obstacle avoidance, seeing all of that stuff. See, this is where I wish I had a zoom so I could zoom in more on just that zone above the dam. But maybe I can go up a little bit and whatever. It's not Hawaii, but there's beauty everywhere. That's kind of cool. And that's one of the things with the drone, right? We can go and get some different stuff that a lot of people can't and make something kind of ordinary look kind of extraordinary. I mean, that looks pretty nice, right? So let me go ahead and try to get a little footage of this. I'm just gonna kind of do a little orbit. I'm gonna start my right stick, and then I'm gonna try to go up in altitude too. So I'm gonna do an orbit while I'm raising altitude, and then if you get good, you can start to lift your gimbal up too. See how it's doing this? Because it's an auto exposure, it's adjusting everything. So that's that. I'm hoping this helps out, guys. I'm gonna get the drone back home, but this video was kind of, as I said, therapeutic, just to get one video out there that was drone related. When I was on island, I didn't really do too much with anything. I just kind of concentrated on myself and healing and flying a little bit. I'm gonna put together an edit of some of my Hawaii content. Didn't shoot a ton, but I shot enough that I can show off the Enterprise and what it was able to do. But I can show you what the Enterprise is capable of doing in the right hands with the right settings. It was all shot in 6K and pretty stunning. And now look, see what's happening? I can go ahead and maybe hit auto. Okay, it's wanting to go home. I'm at 25% battery. So what I'm gonna do now is to press, since I customized that, right, the A button, I'm gonna go to Ludicrous Mode, and if you see, Ludicrous Mode is in 45 mile an hour, and I'm gonna go over here, turn, and just hightail back. So this is an example of getting from point A to B quickly. So I'm gonna just cruise home and do this in real time so you can see. Of course, I'm gonna be careful. I'm gonna look at that crosshair in the middle and kind of aim the drone that way. And I see the drone, I can hear the drone, EVO 2 Pro Enterprise, cruising in Ludicrous Mode. And that's it. And then I'm gonna back it up to me. And one other thing, I got obstacle avoidance on. It's in Ludicrous Mode. Sometimes you may wanna switch it out of Ludicrous Mode when you're coming in for a landing, just because you don't need that additional speed, of course. And I'll attempt to hand land this thing. As I said before, the EVO 2 Pro Enterprise, for some reason, does not like hand landing. Come on, there we go. But we're able to do it for the video. So good vibes, EVO 2 Pro 6K, safely back, and that's it. If this helps, go ahead and hit the thumbs up button, subscribe. If you're new to the channel, I'm gonna be mainly doing drone stuff, a little bit kind of mindfulness, wellness stuff, just life stuff, because that's kind of par for the course with what I do, and photography, of course, and some videography. So with that being said, guys, aloha and thank you. Bye.